Okay, so I'm going to talk about a website of mine called PhyloPic. This is actually the project that I first demoed on at Spec 4 years ago. Probably a couple of you remember it. For the rest of you, PhyloPic is a website where anyone can upload a silhouette of any kind of life form, and anyone can download and use that silhouette under a Creative Commons license. PhyloPic uses a taxonomic database, meaning that it knows how all the different groups are related to each other, which means that if you're looking for a silhouette of a particular species and doesn't have a silhouette for that, it'll at least be able to find a relative of some kind. Having that taxonomic database lets us do some cool things. Let me see if I can pop out to the web browser here. There we go. This is an automatically generated page showing the entire evolutionary lineage of domestic dogs, how they evolved from wolves, earlier canines, the earliest mammals, early terrestrial vertebrates. Is it working? It is scrolling on my screen. It's not working? Hold on a sec. Let me fix that. It's probably PowerPoint.
Yeah. You can try Command F1.
There we go. Whoa. Getting ahead of myself. Next time I'll bring my own laptop. Thanks so much, Sammy. There we go. Okay. Dogs evolving from wolves, earlier canines, early mammals. Where's the page down on here? Sorry, as fast as I can go. Early terrestrial vertebrates. You get the basic idea. There's a huge taxonomic database that covers all of life, going on back, earliest animals, earliest microbes, all the way back to the earliest life on Earth. Now, if we just get back to PowerPoint. There we go. PhyloPic also includes an open API. 1 second here. So that developers can access all of that taxonomic information and find silhouettes. I built PhyloPic way back in 2010 and 2011 using some of the more popular technologies at that time, some of which have aged well, others of which have not. One probably none of you are familiar with is UBio. That's a taxonomic database that PhyloPic pulls a lot of its information from, or used to pull a lot of information from. Its funding was cut out some years ago, so I've had to kind of supplement it. It's still online, but in kind of a hobbled state. So I launched back in 2011. About a year later, something really weird and unexpected happened. Pee Wee Herman, of all people, tweeted a link to the website, generating my biggest, whoop. What's going on here? There we go. Generating my biggest spike in traffic ever. So although I haven't been able to match that one day, thousands of people, thousands of visitors thing, it has had a lot of use over the years at a slower pace, thankfully. It's grown to have over 3,000 silhouettes. It's been used for, I don't know how many, probably hundreds of scientific papers. Here's one example from the journal Evolutionary Anthropology showing a diagram of primate evolution. It was also used extensively in the second edition of The Ancestor's Tale, a book by Richard Dawkins and Yan Wang. Yan Wang actually contributed a number of silhouettes to PhyloPic while working on this edition. The API has been used for some pretty cool projects. This is the paleobiology database. They're trying to basically catalog all fossil life on Earth, and they use PhyloPic silhouettes to illustrate the major groups. There's a package for the R programming language for inserting PhyloPic silhouettes into plot charts. And one of the weirdest uses I've seen is this tweet bot called Datasaurs, which automatically finds statistical correlations between the outlines of prehistoric animals and monthly causes of death in the United States. Yes, it is Dino-Vember right now. So I'll talk a little bit about the architecture behind PhyloPic. The database schema is what we call nomenclature-based, meaning that names are the primary entity. Homo sapiens, Mammalia, dogs. Two names can have two different kinds of relationships. They can be in a synonymy, meaning they refer to the same group, or in a hyponymy, meaning that the groups they refer to, one includes the other. So these relationships are pulled in from that database, ubio, or supplied by myself, or supplied by contributors, curated by myself to weed out invalid ones. And that's what the taxonomy is derived from. This was a pretty good system for a while. However, it has not scaled well. The site is very slow. And it's difficult to do certain things that a lot of people would like to do. For example, you can't search all the silhouettes within a large group right now. If you wanted to look at all silhouettes of all mammals, there's not an option for that. So I am in the middle of completely re-engineering everything with newer technologies, and one of the older technologies, Postgres, is still fine. And I'm doing it with an eye toward making it as fast as possible and hosting things as cheaply as possible. Trying to rely heavily on simple storage service, Amazon Simple Storage Service, which just serves flat files. I'll be using that not only for the silhouettes, but also for the data provided by the API. I'm going to be revising the database so that it's not nomenclature-based. It's just, I'm going to plug in the taxonomy. That's it. That's all we really want in the end. And as well, it's going to be shrunk down in size so that it only covers the groups that we actually have silhouettes for. For anything else, it's going to reach out to Encyclopedia of Life, which is, like ubio, a taxonomic database. Unlike ubio, it has pretty good funding, so hopefully it doesn't go down like ubio did. Next week, I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter to really get it. I've already started, but to really get this going. I've brought with me some prototypes for the low-level rewards. These are pocket phylogenies. They have a commonly asked question about evolution on one side. This one says, if we evolved from apes, why are there still apes? And the other side has the answer as a diagram with PhyloPic silhouettes. Apart from that, for the Kickstarter, there'll be t-shirts. And at the highest level, original commissioned artwork. Here's an ink piece I'm working on showing the evolution of seahorses. So, if you want to check it out, you can go online, PhyloPic.org, follow PhyloPic on Twitter. If you want to take a look at the code, most of it's up on my GitHub, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
What was the silhouette Pee-wee retweeted?
Which one?
Yeah, what was the silhouette that?
Silhouette, what was it? Just the silhouette.
You know, I think he just, man, I'm going to have to look that up. I forget. This was like 7 years ago. Yeah, it wasn't that, David.
Like it wasn't just him dancing?
It wasn't a phallus imputicus.
I don't want to be rude about this, but how do you, couldn't you work this into Google image search somehow? Like a silhouette thing as a tab?
If you were specifically looking for a silhouette, so yeah.
Why
if you were
isn't there a
specifically
silhouette
looking for a
tab right
silhouette
there?
in Google image search,
Yeah,
They don't have an option for that.
they should have.
Like if I worked at Google, sure, I could do that.
I find myself for
But
some
they also
reason
don't
doing
have a
that all the
taxonomic
time.
database.
I'm
Sorry, go
always
ahead.
going silhouette and then a thing, because I do graphics work that often needs silhouettes.
Sorry, I can't quite hear you.
I often do graphic work that needs silhouette, so I'm always typing into Google Image, silhouette and then whatever. And
Right.
so I wonder if you could attach yourself to that somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I can use keywords to get in Google that way. The two things that
Make them make a button, that's what I mean.
What if you don't know what exactly what you're looking for?
yeah. The two things that Google's missing are they don't have an option for just searching for silhouettes, and they don't have a taxonomic database, so you can't search for a particular group.
Fish, anyone?
But I do use Google image search a lot when I'm trying to find, because they do have that license search, which is very nice. So I can find stuff that's in the public domain or whatever and see, okay, this isn't too hard to convert to a silhouette and just add it.
So you haven't shown us how to navigate, but is it possible to just swim down branches and see where things go? And
Yes, it is.
Cool.
If you go to a particular page, you can see all the groups within that group and the group that includes that group. And you can navigate that way.
cool.
And you can also, any page you go to, you can generate an evolutionary lineage for, so you can go and see the entire evolutionary history of it, go down to something else. You can also do comparative evolutionary lineages. So if you look up dogs, you could add cats to that and see what their common ancestor is and where that branches off.
Well, and you mentioned now you're adding the prehistoric life. Isn't it like most things are extinct? 90%?
Oh, prehistoric
or-
life has been there from the beginning.
It's been there, okay.
Yeah.
But isn't that's the bulk of what the silhouettes are going to be if you get everything in there?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that happens is when you submit a silhouette, it's usually going to be for a particular species, but if that silhouette could also stand in for the ancestor of a larger group, it'll be assigned to that larger group as well. So an example of this would be, I don't know, Archaeopteryx, like the first bird or whatever. It's assigned to its own species, but it's also assigned to a larger group. And so when you're going through the evolutionary lineage pages, you'll see silhouettes for things that are, close enough to what the ancestor would be.
What's the ratio of plants to animals to things that aren't plants or animals?
It is very heavily animals. Like plants are the most neglected group.
That's because they're boring.
I've tried to, yeah. Even like microbes, even viruses are probably better covered, which aren't even alive, really.
What's for the smallest mammal?
The smallest mammal is the bumblebee bat. I want to say it's Crassinectorus, but I'm not entirely sure.
Check you on that one.
The least true is pretty close.
I remember you demonstrating once your ability to name the scientific name for any animal,
Mammal.
any mammal. So would anyone like to suggest a mammal?
Oh, I'm a little rusty, Jim, but sure.
Yeah. Anyone? Kangaroo.
Kangaroo as a whole group is Macropodoidea. Specifically, most people, when they're thinking kangaroo, they're thinking of the large ones, which are Macropus and Megalea.
Yeah, yeah. Woo! Armadillo.
Armadillos as a group are Cingulata. They're part of a larger group that include these extinct things called glyptodonts. Some of you may be familiar with these huge armored, some of them had tail clubbed things. Today's armadillos are actually remnants of a larger group that also included those. Pangolins are Maenidae. There's several different genera and different species within those genera. And then their order is Pholidota, but that includes extinct things as well.
And whatever database you got running, you can replicate on.
It's from working on this so much. Anyway, so I'll pass out these cards if anyone wants any, by the way.